My real name is Linda Hurst, as is the name I've always used for everything. I guess I loved music from being very, very small. And I used to play tunes on my mother's hand when she was holding it. She thought there was something wrong with me. And I pleaded for an instrument, got a piano. It just sort of went from there. I didn't. Not a formally musical family, though my grandmother sang in the Methodist choir in Burnley in Lancashire. So she had a few scores. I think she'd probably only sung the Messiah, the Creation, and possibly the St. John Passion. My father had a really good tenor voice, but didn't sing in anything. And my mother sang all the time in the house and had a really beautiful voice, actually. Well, in my girls' high school in Huddersfield, which was a really good grammar school, in that school, the second person who came to teach music, he'd just done a thesis about Michael Tippett. He then commissioned a piece from John Gardner, and he commissioned one solo song for me. But having that song delivered to me, which no one else had ever sung, and it was for me, was too nice to, was the best thing. So that's what started it. Crumbs, yes. Fewer now, but I did have. Janet Baker, I guess. Where were we? Role models. A difficult one. My godmother, who was a single woman, who was cultured, but she had collected beautiful old things in her house. She played the piano. She had a dog. I thought she was magnificent. And my cousin Elsie Long, who ran the fashion house Jean Muir for all of her working life. So these women, I guess, were my role models. Then when I came to London, Janet Baker, without question, for years and years and years. And I went to everything I could possibly go to, and I learned a huge amount from her. I sang with her, actually, also, which was a dream come true. Finally, in my late 20s, I think early 30s, I sang with her 2 or 3 times in the Cheltenham Festival. So, yes, perhaps Janet Baker was the first real role model. Yeah, that'll do. Gavin Henderson was artistic director of Dartington International Summer School, and I congratulated him on having got the job of principal of Trinity College of Music. When he'd done about 6 months, he said, we're going to advertise for a head of vocal studies and I'd like you to apply. And I wasn't really ready. I was still working a lot and I was still travelling a lot. And he said, that's fine, we want an artist. In the first few years it was quite tricky because I was away quite a bit. But I got the job. So I think Dartington probably has shaped my whole life, really. Yeah. It couldn't happen. It can't happen because people will always, somehow, make music. They will. Even if they have nothing to do it with, they have a voice. People have been doing it for thousands of years. I don't think it could happen. I'd love a world of restaurants without music, but no, I couldn't conceive of a world without music. I think you would make your own, even in your head, if you weren't allowed for some terrible, ghastly reason, if you weren't allowed to do it or to make it, then you would have it in your own head. And even in silence, you have music in your head. I have. I bet you have too. So we can't do without it. No. It's heart and soul, but it's also faithfulness as an interpreter. You don't need to be faithful as an improviser because you have all the ideas. But perhaps faithfulness on a forensic level to the music, and then heart and soul. I would say first to really examine where they think they are on the journey to being a professional. And they'll need to listen to a lot of other people to be able to gauge that. To be able to gauge somewhere, somehow, how far there is to go on the journey and how likely it is that they can do that. And absolute determination and persistence. Persistence, I think, is possibly more important. Obviously, talent has to be taken for granted, you have to have that, but it's the work ethic and persistence, because you get put off. Loads of people will try to put you off. And if you're determined, you'll just hang on and you'll say, yes, you're probably right, and you just carry right on. Oh, crumbs. Well, I'll get it first. Pustja, the burning bush. Will you give me to tell you? Not as a birth, as a birth, as a birth, but as love, but as love, far above. Is that enough?
I'm Milo.
I'm Tegan.
I'm Elsie.
And I'm Emily.
What I like about music is that it's free. You can be as creative as you want when performing music. I like singing, and I like to write my own songs, and I like being creative with that and being free.
I like both music, listening to it and performing it. Listening to it because it takes you away, just like reading a book, and you can connect with music. And also I love performing it because I get to show my true colours and get to show everyone who I might be shy enough not to show in real life.
I like music because it's for everyone can understand it. It's like a universal language, so you can go anywhere, and if you can like bond with people just over the music you like and things like that.
I like music because when you listen to music, it can take you away. It's like being in a dream world, except with music instead of a book.
Well, it's sort of a mix, because I used to be like a big fan of these like pop bands and all of that. I won't say who. And I don't know, I just listen to a lot of things. I still listen to a bit of pop, but then I go into like bands like Sum 41 and Blink 182. And yeah, I sort of enjoy like punk pop / rock side of music.
I like pop, rap and R&B music.
I like lots of music. A lot of the time I just listen to like very small creators on YouTube, and also I'm a big fan of Ed Sheeran. I really like his music.
I like pop music, and I also like quite a lot of raps, and I also quite like listening to operas because my mum has to learn them all the time.
Well, the opera that I'm singing, that we're all singing in right now, is Noah's Flood. And I'm not playing an animal in this one. I'm playing one of Noah's children called Japhet.
Yes, we are performing Noah's Flood, and I am not an animal either. I am one of Noah's children's wives, and I'm Mrs. Ham.
Yeah, I'm not an animal either. And I'm also one of Noah's children's wives, and I'm Mrs. Japhet.
And I'm an animal, and I'm a goat.
First show I was ever like properly in, like, was a massive acting show. It was more music. I performed at the O2. I performed in the Palladium, and I used to do this thing called Theatre Train, and then I moved on to Stagecoach, and then I've performed 3 shows there. So I performed Legally Blonde, there's something called Susan the Musical, and Hairspray, and then I've done 2 school productions, and then that's what I've done.
This is the only proper musical I've actually done. I've done lots of school works and school trips, but none like this.
When I was 7, I did an opera called Brundabar with the place where I learned violin, and I've also been in a show at my school of Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat.
I've been in my first show here, proper show here, was Paws and Padlocks last year. Performed quite a few musicals around like town in a studio type thing called Montage.
Oh, my dream job is acting. Definitely. I've wanted to be an actor for quite a while now, but then if I don't pull off that dream, then a singer, because I think once my voice officially breaks, because it's getting that, I'll just find a new type of singing if my acting doesn't go further, and then I'll just try and do acting and singing at the same time, or become a director.
My dream job is becoming an actress, but if that doesn't work out, then I'd become a lawyer.
I would also like to be an actress, but also an author and an illustrator, and maybe a geography teacher.
I'd like to be an Olympic gymnast, or I would like to be a singer. But if neither of those work, then I would like to be a biologist.
I'm Georgina Bowden, and I've studied composition at Trinity. This is my second year of my Masters. I previously studied architecture before this, so I kind of see myself as a visual artist as well as a composer. So in my work I kind of think about both aspects at the same time. I find that quite interesting. When I started having singing lessons myself, I started finding it really interesting just how it all works and stuff, and the kind of psychology of it I find really interesting too, and that's something I definitely think about when I compose. I'm influenced quite a lot by spaces because of the architectural side. I think about it quite a lot. I'd even say like the courtyard at Trinity, because you hear like loads of cool things going on at the same time and it just sounds like a mash. I used to do this walk up the side of the South Downs, so like on the way to Brighton. When you're in a natural place and there isn't a lot of kind of sounds like cars or anything, I like the whole atmosphere you get of a lot of things doing something quietly. That's a particular texture I'm interested in, and like I don't know, I can't imagine it, because I suppose to me personally it would mean, because music's such an outlet for me in a lot of senses, I suppose it would mean that I was a lot more intensely into another creative medium instead. But I don't really think there's an equivalent of what music can do in terms of the other arts. And it relates to your hearing as well, and I don't know, I think it would completely change your perception of kind of the world around you and things. I definitely want to open people's minds to things they haven't necessarily thought about. I think it's a good thing, the whole decategorization, and I want people to hear things just as music, and that's definitely something I'm interested in. I don't know, I think a very direct message is actually really important. I find this a difficult one because personally I'm really grateful for the initiatives that are starting to happen. The opportunities specifically for women at the moment I think are really helping to kind of even that out, and something positive will reach there in the end, but this is the beginning of it. I've benefited such a great deal from like the Royal Philharmonic Society's Women Conductors Programme, and it just set off a load of other things and made me think, oh my gosh, I can actually just do it. I'd read this article about a particular story about these radium girls which they worked in factories in World War I in America, and they were kind of completely taken advantage of, and they all got these horrible bone tumours in their jaws and things because they'd be dipping the radium brushes in their mouths all the time. And I just thought it was such a ridiculous story of exploitation of young women. At the time I was applying for an opportunity for Rough for Opera, and I tested the opera there, and then I had another opportunity to perform it later, so that was really great. So that was really how it began. With opera you can have kind of two stories going at once. For example, there are bits in it where one of the girls is singing quite a light high line, and then the strings are doing something, you know, quite heavy and ominous underneath. And I wanted these two dialogues to be simultaneous because radium's kind of an intriguing and beautiful kind of substance that was really interesting. You know, it's been sold as like health cures and stuff in food and drink, which is kind of horrifying. But you know, it was seen as this wonder thing. And then so you have the intrigue of it, but then you also have the horror that it was actually causing people's bones to disintegrate. And yeah, it's kind of a horror story, really. I don't know, it's so fundamental to so many aspects of my life, like both personally and both how I like to create. And I don't know, I feel like it's something that I need. It's something that I need, and also it's a creative process that I always need to be doing. Like, it's like an addiction. Do you know what I mean? Like you're just on the tube or something and you're just like, oh my gosh, I've got an idea, and you have to write it down, and it's fundamental to my life.